and gentlemen.
Welcome to the show. It's Movie Wire time. Oh, the Movie Wire. Bring the firing squad. Bill, Justin. Give the finger or laugh or smile. It's time to find out. No more waiting. So here we go. The Sultan of Cinema. The gumshoe of review. Here is Justin Henson. Let's start the show. Let's go.
Welcome to the Movie Wire.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. We got a big show this week with 4 brand new reviews, with 2 playing in theaters and 2 that are available to stream right now, with 1 that's a part of our Movie Wire catch-up. This week on the show, be careful what you wish for in Obsession. Without power, you're no one. In The Wizard of the Kremlin, a look into the life of the legendary comedian Martin Short in the Netflix exclusive Marty, Life is Short. And finally, we dive into our Movie Wire catch-up segment where every generation has a rite of passage. This is yours, and you can't unsee it in Faces of Death. We've got a lot to cover this week, so let's jump right in. Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
Out of the windows to watch a roar and a burst of flame. The Movie Wire podcast. There it is. You need people like me.
The Wire.
And here we go.
After breaking the mysterious one-wish willow to win his precious heart, Bear, a hopeless romantic, finds himself getting exactly what he asked for, but soon discovers that some desires come at a dark, sinister price in Obsession.
Have you ever actually, flirted with Nikki?
I'm gonna go get some shots.
I'll come with you if she means this much to you. And I know she does. Say, Nikki, I think we should grab a drink sometime.
Nikki, wait. I was gonna ask you,
What?
I lost my train of thought. Good night. What else?
Why?
One wish, Willow. You only get one wish. I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anyone in the entire world.
I love you so much. A love only the branch of a willow tree could conjure.
It's weird how you two are dating all of a sudden. Like, super dating.
I think Nikki is going through something.
Like what? Is she okay?
No.
Jeez, what kind of spells you put on her?
Nikki? I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you! I was calling to see if there's a way I can cancel a wish.
I'm sorry, we don't really do that.
So she's just stuck like this forever?
Well, yeah, I mean, as long as you live.
As long as I live.
Obsession is an intriguing film, one that starts with timidness, lack of confidence, and at times foolishness of how we react to another we are attracted to even inserting some romance feelings where we are rooting for our main character with our inner voice saying, "Go get your girl." But the movie quickly pivots into fooling the audience, even for a couple of minutes, that our main character here, Bear, played by Michael Johnson, is going to live happily ever after with his crush Nikki, played by N. Navarrete. But the movie quickly spirals into chaos, and not just chaos, uncomfortable chaos, where obsession just doesn't go for the jump out and say boo or the gross factor. It brings the horror to an uncomfortable social environment, and the fear of seeing the one you love not in control of herself, with the overhanging dangle of possible loss of a loved one. Now, the movie follows Bear, who works in what seems to be a music shop, run by a surprising small role appearance by manager Carter, played by Andy Richter. Bear works here with his best friend and crush, Nikki. Bear is the stereotypical underdog nerd, whatever you want to call it, a cliche character that we can visually see on screen, that really reaches for the stars when it comes to his crush, where we do get a very big contrast between these two characters, that we wouldn't say, based on his confidence, based on his appearance, that he would be good enough for the girl. The movie does a great job on making that contrast believable. And the movie doesn't spend a lot of time giving the viewer a lot to work with when it comes to how these two interact or flirt or lack thereof flirting. We do get a scene where it is the perfect moment for Bear to express his love, where some of us might find way too relatable. And the movie taps into this to justify the actions of what Bear does next. Which, while he is shopping for a gift for Nikki at a spiritual stone shop, he comes across what looks to be a novelty item, a one-wish willow stick for $6.99. That is said, if you break it and make a wish, it will come true. And no surprise, Bear makes that wish and Nikki falls in love with Bear, but not just falls in love, you guessed it, becomes obsessed. To the point as the heat turns up in their relationship, we see a clever add-on where we see duct tape on the front door to keep Bear in. And as the movie goes on, the duct tape piles up as Nikki suspects Bear doesn't love her as much as she does. Obsession plays more like a horror tragedy with a Romeo and Juliet feel, but instead of the Montagues and Capulets as the conflict between our two star-crossed lovers, our writer-director Curry Barker inserts themes of control versus love, or love versus control. These are two things that is getting in between our two characters. And as we introduce our supporting cast, we learn a little bit more, and each of the supporting cast members, each one plays a part in the manipulation that we saw in Romeo and Juliet. Bear's friend Ian, played by Cooper Tomlinson, and Sarah, played by Megan Lawless, each one is whispering in Bear's ear. But our director Barker doesn't want to just tell the message of tragedy with love being the driver. He tells a story with the underlying message of toxicity and what contributes to the toxicity of a relationship, and how hard it is to get out of that kind of relationship was, as human nature, it's the strongest emotion. Love is the one controlling our actions. But the brilliant thing here, and the smartest thing that Barker does, is stay neutral in who's controlling who. On one hand, Nikki is controlled by obsession of Bear, but on the other hand, Bear's wish is in control of Nikki. Barker leaves a good amount of curiosity for the viewer to interpret, but also doesn't keep throwing more and more things to think about. He keeps the situational pieces simple, he keeps the dialogue simple, and as we are allowed to digest the themes and messaging that's being presented, he keeps the situational pieces simple, he keeps the dialogue simple, as we are allowed to digest the themes and messaging that's being presented. And our two main talents, Johnson and Nikki, do a fantastic job at keeping their performances as a slow burn. As the stakes grow, their performances feel well-rounded and appropriately paced. Now, Barker does lean more on the eerie aspects of our Nikki character with some kind of creepy movement, staring and screaming, and they are creepy to an extent. And no, I'm fine with the creepy moments because it's effective. But what I would have really loved more is a singular moment where we have our main characters share edgy dialogue, where we get a break from the things happening, the situations outside of their relationship. I would have loved to see these two interact. I would have found that more interesting to say, we have a character here that is out of her control, and we have a guy that's very timid on how to handle this situation. I would have loved to have a 5 to 10 minute dialogue-driven conversation between these two, instead of just 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences between them to kind of tell us this is going to be scary. This would have really shown what Barker could do as a horror storyteller, to really say, I can create tension, I can create horror in just a two-way conversation. But nevertheless, What he does do is creative, and it's, again, effective. It's intelligent. Horror tragedy that seeks to do more than just say boo or ew. Its core topic and its idea is already a scary and uncomfortable thought. On how he amplifies it, his core topic and idea is already a scary and uncomfortable thought. And how he ends up amplifying it is a testament to his skill. It's brilliant. This is Curry Baker's first full-length feature next to a couple of short films, and he is going to be the one to watch out for. Obsession joins a club of not just a handful of horror films in the last few years that made my eyes glued to the screen and my mind left in thought for days. It's not what Barker is showing us that's scary, it's what he's telling us. And when a filmmaker can combine both to amplify our emotions, that is something The Exorcist was known for, and now Obsession. Barker is going to be on the list for breakout directors this decade. I'm giving Obsession 3.5 stars.
I think it's interesting about life. I always think it's like the scales of justice. At the end, it all equals out. I mean, someone might look at my life and say, oh my God, how lucky he can afford a lovely home. He's had this career. People like him. Oh, nothing. But then there's other things that can take that down. And at the end, it's probably a wash, whoever you are.
The definitive documentary on comedian Martin Short, exploring his career across film, television, theater, and comedy. In the Netflix exclusive, Marty, Life is Short.
I'll tell you something about Marty. Let's say you're going to host a dinner party, and you invite Marty.
I loved you in Home Alone. You're wonderful.
And then it turns out Marty can't come. You cancel the party.
In this business, in the world of comedy, there's nobody faster.
You used to do circus work. I was a freak for a while.
There's nobody smarter.
Just because the eyes are so dull doesn't mean that there's not a machinery of wheels clicking away.
There's nobody funnier.
Say something funny.
Oh, you're the guy.
I feel like he could improvise to eternity, couldn't he?
There's only one way out, so we should jump. For heaven's sakes, the fall will kill us, I must say.
I'm in the greatest profession in the world. I'm so damn lucky. How do I keep it going?
And there, of course, Larry Kasdan. Hi, Larry.
In life, sometimes you hit a green light, and sometimes for no reason it's red. Mom died and Dad's health went fast. And I just was overwhelmed with, I can't do it. I can't do it. We had a speed dial to the funeral parlor.
Yes.
But there were laughs during those years. But that's the point.
Being a dad, it's as genuine as his breath.
Marty operates at the speed of joy.
Should I pick the kids up?
Oh my God. Oh my dear Lord in heaven.
Marty showed me it's very important how you carry yourself through all of these experiences. Marty is good at life.
You're making a documentary about Martin Short.
Yeah, well, they're making a documentary on everyone. Literally every human being that existed.
You know, growing up, there is a handful of talent that just made me happy on screen. Ones that put you in a good mood, no matter if the movie was any good or not. Such a great talent on screen that you didn't care about the movie. You cared about just seeing them. Talent such as Robin Williams, John Candy, Rodney Dangerfield, John Goodman, and of course, Martin Short. Just to name a few, these are the faces in my happy place growing up. And I'm sure all of you have your own happy face talent, but these are just mine. Now, just like when I reviewed the John Candy documentary, I said, this is a hard film to review. These are talents that I absolutely love. The only difference here is that we get in-depth interviews from Martin Short, and Martin Short is still alive, and that is a blessing to the world. And also, a slight difference here. Since we do hear from Martin Short, it's motivational that the film makes us ponder around the topic of death, but more importantly, makes us reflect on life and what a gift it is. It is no secret that Martin Short has suffered a lifetime of tragedy, from his brother's death to his parents to his wife, and more recently, his daughter. That happened after this documentary was finished, but they still played tribute to Catherine. Now, more recently, Martin Short was interviewed where he opened up about the losses in his life, and not only did it make me love this man even more, but I absolutely loved his outlook on life and the love of life to treat it as a gift, in which I was hoping for that here. But again, like I said, it's hard with movies like this because it could be perfect and I would still want more. Marty Life is Short covers stories from friends, family, and Martin himself as he reflects on his journey through life and his career. And as we see Martin Short now, we may think, why wasn't he in more movies? Why did he pick the roles that he did? Those that are fans of Martin Short can guess at the motive, but the movie shed some light on exactly what we as fans might be guessing. But what we should be thinking is how this tremendous talent stays with us in the short list of movies he did do. Martin Short, and those that know him on a personal level, presents the love of life Martin has in his view of the world. And what makes this so special is that we don't learn anything new, but validates how we have perceived him all these years, where we can see how genuine he is. The most memorable part of Life is Short is, yes, we do get a look into Martin Short's career and his outlook on life, which is absolutely special, but what stays with us is old footage of Martin Short at holidays, parties, vacations. He shares with familiar faces like Eugene Levy, Paul Schaefer, Tom Hanks, and of course, Steve Martin, and even Steven Spielberg. And this is almost a reminder that home movies are important to reflect, not just because you're a celebrity, but it actually made me reflect on pulling out home movies from my garage and digitizing them just so I know they're safe and I have them. And in this old footage that Martin Short presents, hits double hard when we see footage of the late, great Catherine O'Hara, a looking glass into not just the career, but how fabulous families and friends interact with each other outside of the camera, which proves the biggest point of the documentary, that celebrities are people too, and how they interact is exactly how normal friends, when together, would interact, where we can feel the love and fun they have with each other. And at the end of the day, life doesn't care how famous or rich you are, but the fulfillment, the richness of support you get from connections and relationships and family. These are all important to the crescendo of life up until your death. This movie made me forget I was watching a celebrity, but rather just an interesting take on a life. This is the movie's strongest point, but also can be the weakest when it comes to wanting to get inside the head of Martin Short, where it plays like homage to a time of legendary comedians that helped shape the 80s and 90s in comedy and film. Marty Life is Short presents that Martin picked projects that are fun projects with people he liked to be around, and something that just made him have fun. And that's his mantra of life, where, as we can see from films he's picked and the rarity of movies he's in, that he is truly living a life he wants to live. The film is directed by The Big Chill, Wyatt Earp, and Dreamcatcher. You know, the movie about people pooping out aliens with Morgan Freeman.
I can smell you.
Anyway, directed by Lawrence Kasdan, where he captures what we can feel what Martin Short would want from a Martin Short movie, which is having you smile one moment, feel something the next, and with hearing tragedy, we want to cry a tear. But the movie never really gets us there, and it's on purpose, because we would get Martin Short on screen and hear him talk, and the world is much better. And that's not a bad thing, because it screams Martin Short, because we can tell Martin Short wants to make the world smile instead of cry. Marty Life is Short is craftily directed and edited to really give us a tone of the person of topic, which makes me feel bad. It makes me feel greedy for asking to give me more. But just like with Short as an actor, I could wish for more Martin Short movies, but I know I can't get what I want. Marty Life is Short is a tribute to Martin Short and Martin Short's gift to fans, to not stroke an ego of his career, but to give perspective of how to view life and loss. A man that has had so much tragedy still seeks the need to be there for others and make the world smile. This is a documentary that foretastes the quote, "Show me a comedian and I will show you somebody that has faced tragedy and pain." The biggest thing that this film does is make a film that matches the man. And even though I say I wanted more. It is just perfect the way it is, in honor of Martin Short. I'm giving Marty, Life is Short, 3 stars.
If I said to the audience, any audience I was in, how many have lost anyone from suicide? You'd be stunned by the hands that go up. How many have mental health in their family? You'd be stunned by the hands that would go up. Why pretend that this is your own pain? Maybe by sharing your pain, you will help other people's pain.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure you check out movies that just became available to rent, buy, or stream now.
Now available on video cassette.
The galaxy awaits in this Super Mario sequel that wasn't that super, but rather just an Easter egg sugar rush in the Super Mario Galaxy movie that received 2 stars. What happened to Katie in a take on the Mummy that made me want to go back to the Tom Cruise battling the Mummy and Lee Cronin, The Mummy, that received 2 stars. Small town, big secret that shows that Bob Odenkirk is a breakout, unexpected action star in Normal that taps into 90s fun of action films to receive 3.5 stars. Believe in Hail Mary that I believed was too long. I believed it looked great. I believed it was a good theater experience to receive 3 stars. Don't overlook any anomalies. Based on the video game comes Exit 8 for limited dialogue and based on a video game had a lot to say to receive 3 stars. Witness the Wedding of the Year and witness drama that doesn't stop after the reveal in The Drama that received 3.5 stars. New game, Fresh Blood, Double or Nothing, and Ready or Not 2 that didn't really add anything but subtracted the fun factor to receive 2 stars. Nature Can't Be Silenced in Disney Pixar's Hoppers that taps into all the emotions from heart to thrills for a perfect family adventure to receive 3.5 stars. Let Them Try in an admirable attempt at a survival thriller in They Will Kill You, but added nothing new to the table except moments of entertainment to receive 2.5 stars. Witches in Retail that mixes The Craft and Mean Girls, and I was all for the witty dialogue that drove the entertainment factor in Forbidden Fruit that received 3 stars. Everyone deserves a second chance, except Reminders of Him that I never want a reminder of this movie to receive 1.5 stars. Be Afraid of the Silence because it wants to be heard in Undertone. That was an underwhelming paranormal experience to receive 2 stars. Elvis Presley like you've never seen before in Epic Elvis Presley in Concert. That was a refreshing experience on the King himself receiving 4 stars. Here Comes a Motherfucking Bride in The Bride that I actually wish had some better fucking things to say to receive 2.5 stars. Meet Your New Neighbor, He's Coming for You. But you will be okay if you just leave the theater or turn it off in Psycho Killer that received 1.5 stars. You're Never Too Small to Dream Big in the animated film Goat that actually was the goat to receive 3.5 stars. Meet Linda, she's from Strategy and Planning and she's the boss now in Sam Raimi's Send Help, which I'm glad I didn't need to call for help to receive 3 stars. Dream Big, Dream Bigger in Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie that I knew nothing about, but it's so dumb to be good to receive 3 stars. Play Meet Fury and Avatar Fire and Ash, that again is one of those movies that's hard not to take to the experience of the visuals, music, and theater experience, but it won't be on my rewatch list. It's enough to give it a marginal 3 stars. Burn It All Down, and another entry to the Scream franchise comes Scream 7, which was simplistic, looked fantastic, but we are really running out of villain ideas here, guys. But still a fun time to receive 3 stars. Be With Me Always, Take Any Form, Drive Me Mad, which defines my review. You had me in the first act, then I asked it to be a different movie, and it ends with driving me mad with frustration and Wuthering Heights that received 2 stars. Sometimes heartbreak is the only beginning, with Kevin James being left at the altar in Solo Mio that hits all the right notes for a rom-com written by guys, and the movie makes that clear, receiving 2.5 stars. Their shift has hit the fan, and if it spreads, you're dead. In Cold Storage that teeters on the fun factor that never really gets there, receiving 2.5 stars. you're not prepared for what's about to go down, and I sure wasn't, and good luck, don't die, and have fun. That was, damn it, a lot of fun, receiving 3.5 stars. Revenge brings revelation in The Strangers Chapter 3. That should be a revelation to the filmmakers to stop fucking making these movies, receiving 1.5 stars. The future of criminal justice is artificial intelligence in Mercy, where we spend a couple of hours staring at Chris Pratt until we say, Lord have mercy, is it over, receiving 2.5 stars. You Live Here Now and Return to Silent Hill, which will be the tagline if I end up in hell, followed by an eternity of watching Return to Silent Hill to receive 0.5 star. Discover what's behind closed doors, and just like in my dreams, is Sydney Sweeney in an actual good movie, in The Housemaid, that received 3 stars. Volunteers needed in another zombie apocalypse movie that actually attempts a message and is marginally successful, in We Bury the Dead. They got a marginal recommendation at 3 stars. Now, before I get into the last set of reviews, there is a podcast that has become one of my weekly listening routines to give me a mental break from the stresses of work, and that is with J and K over the Fuck My Work Life podcast. Make sure to follow and subscribe. The link to their show will be in the description of this episode. But let's hear from J and K over the Fuck My Work Life podcast now.
Have you ever had a bad day at work?
Well, the Fuck My Work Life podcast is perfect for you.
Hosts J and K share listeners' entertaining stories from the workplace, which may have you thinking you don't have it so bad after all.
Find Fuck My Work Life on your favorite podcast platform.
A young Russian filmmaker becomes an unlikely advisor to Vladimir Putin as he rises to power in post-Soviet Russia, navigating the new era's complexities and chaos. Paul Dano stars in The Wizard of the Kremlin.
Russia needs a new president. He's young, athletic, he's a spy, KGB. Vladimir Putin.
What interests me is power.
Vadim Baranov was a visionary director. He became known as the new Rasputin.
I want to be part of my time, not just a witness.
I cannot be subservient to anyone.
Our goal is chaos. We'll get into people's heads. We'll build the myth that the Russians are controlling the modern world.
You're using your black magic in the service of power?
It's a game. Politics is the only game worth playing.
How miserable.
The Americans, they treat me like I'm the president of Finland. What would you have me do?
They're vicious animals. They come from the void.
They've transformed me into the devil.
You won't save your soul.
We need to inspire fear and fury.
Be careful, or you might fall flat on your face. No one is safe in Russia.
What about you?
The Wizard of the Kremlin.
I'm not interested in winning the Nobel Peace Prize. I want a war.
Based on the novel by Giuliano de Empoli, The Wizard of the Kremlin is an interesting story, and it knows it because it dangles the viewer in intrigue the entire runtime. Even at times, we don't even know what's going on. Writers Olivier Rossies and Emmanuel Carrere adapt a screenplay that is not only intriguing, but dangles elements of subtle fear above the viewer's head the entire runtime. The film follows Vadim Baranov, played by, again, Paul Dano, a man that studies the arts to become a filmmaker and theater director, who in his own way grows to power to be an advisor to Vladimir Putin, here played flawlessly and a little eerie by Jude Law. And no matter how you feel about the movie, Law is so effective in mimicking Putin with his performance, it will be no surprise to me that we will see him come awards time. And even Dano as well, who gives almost a mysterious, eerie feeling throughout the entire runtime. Dano captures a man consistently calculating 10 moves ahead while simultaneously trying to preserve fragments of his own conflict, his own humanity. The performance never slips into inconsistency. Instead of presenting a just typical villain or a typical cartoon mastermind, the film offers this character that's frighteningly precise because he feels real, he feels charismatic, he's intelligent, emotionally exhausted, and morally compromised. The way Dano even looks at the camera, we can see through his eyes a man with dilemma, struggle, and conflict. But here's where the problem lies, is that it's not a great movie. This is just a good movie. And that is solely based on the adaptation and the delivery of the talent on screen of what makes it really successful. Where the movie falters is almost like watching messy thoughts on screen, where the movie feels unorganized in the situations it wants to portray. 1 minute, Dano is in a scene manipulating, another scene doing Putin's bidding, internal conflicts being addressed, to where in the beginning we get a scene as we get a glimpse of the future, setting up the movie as Dano's character Baranov sits down with Roland, played by Jeffrey Wright, to discuss the history of his journey. This setup and the way the movie cuts back to this sit-down sporadically throughout the film seems more like showing off knowledge than to benefit the audience in thought. This is where the adaptation could have been sharper when it comes to an intimate sit-down between these two. But where the movie does succeed is its way to give examples of the manipulation of politics for a better understanding of the different views of Russia. We have a scene where Dano meets with multiple groups from a Russian biker gang to representatives of the Communist Party as he plays the strings of each one of manipulation. At the same time, the movie refuses to simplify these politics into easy moral visuals. It recognizes the power systems are sustained not only by cruelty, but by compromise, fear, vanity, and opportunism. The Wizard of the Kremlin explores propaganda and manipulation not as a theory or crazy rants, but as performance art. Something shaped through media manipulation, carefully crafted narratives, and never going into an emotional spectacle. Because this movie's smart enough to know to play it linear so the audience can kind of grasp their own opinion. And the movie does this by surrounding the film around Dano first and everything else second. This is a good strategy, where Putin isn't at the center of attention, but we know he's there, and the film becomes deeply relevant to the modern media landscape without ever feeling preachy or forced. Adaptions can be tricky when it translates to screen, and given the politics of today, it is so tempting to put Putin up front and center. The movie resists that, and I applaud it for that, because there's a lot more in politics than just the main person up front and center. But we can tell that our writers and our director, Olivier Assayas, is using this as a vehicle to tell not just about Vladimir Putin, but politics in general. That politics has used the public's trust against the public. Now, of course, the movie's message is going to be what you take from it. It captures the seductive nature of power. And again, it would have been so easy to portray the political world as merely monstrous. But the film understands why people are drawn into it. Influence creates momentum. Control becomes intoxicating. Public image transforms into reality. And just like movies, the information, or story, if you will, is up for interpretation or relatability. The movie shows how intelligent people convince themselves they can manage dangerous systems, even as those systems slowly consume them. Sounds familiar, right? The Wizard of the Kremlin is one of those films, if you are patient with it and pay attention, it will make you look to how information is handed down, to the point that it's an effective movie with outstanding performances, but open and honest. This is one that will be a one and done for me. I can appreciate it, and I can acknowledge the fantastic filmmaking and the fantastic performances, especially the beautiful cinematography by Yuri Glanso and the way it makes you think. But I have thought about it, and I don't need to think about it again, and it gets its point across. I'm glad I saw it. It's a well-made movie. It's a well-performed movie, but I wouldn't want to seek it out to watch it again. It was putting me down. But a marginal recommendation for me at 3 stars.
Theaters to streaming seems too short, so that can only mean one thing. It's time for the movie Wirecast.
I'm Dr. Francis Gross. I work as a pathologist. And over the past 20 years, I've compiled a library of the many faces of death.
A woman employed as a website content moderator comes across a series of violent videos reproducing death scenes from a 1978 film, in Faces of Death.
Here at Kino Moderation, we protect people. The young, the innocent. When you come across content that violates policy, flag it and move on. You may be tempted to look into it outside of work, but don't even think about it if you can help it.
Now it is time to witness the many faces of death.
What's up? I've been seeing these videos, all based off this old horror movie called Faces of Death. You think this could be real executions?
Leave it up. Support the trend.
That is the first rule of content creation. Give the people what they want.
Many faces of death.
You need to listen to me about these videos. I need to do something.
It is the attention economy. And baby, business is booming.
Many faces of death.
What are you watching?
Want to see?
Yes, I was one of those weird kids that sought out the original Faces of Death video. And yes, it was indented in my mind growing up as a film that actually made me turn my head away from the screen. And yes, I was nervous putting it in the VCR because the rumors may have been true that if I watch Faces of Death, I may die. But still alive. Here in this Why Did They Make It, or how are they going to make a movie based on a video of just mere clips of horrific death scenes, how it didn't hold the tradition of making me squirm in my seat or turn my head away. It didn't hold to the tradition of the 1978 film, but I'll get into that. Now, this could be, of course, be different for younger people that haven't been introduced to the original or thousands of films that I've watched, which makes me wonder if the movie can't push boundaries on a movie that definitely pushed boundaries, then why make it at all? The overall feel of Faces of Death is it used the Faces of Death premise to just throw in a mass killer that mimics Faces of Death as a copycat. Now, I will give the movie some credit on some clever additions of integrating the internet and social media to how these clips can spread versus knowing a friend of a friend to get a bootleg copy on VHS of the original. And when it comes to this, the idea wasn't properly utilized or gone far enough to not just prove, but to make an impact on messaging that could have been more scary than the actual killer. A messaging on going viral as killers. As I got to the midway mark, I was reminded of the Robert De Niro 2001 film 15 Minutes, where a couple of guys from overseas comes to America and try to make it big with a camcorder because killers on TV that go to jail get a movie, get a book deal, and all the attention. This was a very uncomfortable topic for the movie 15 Minutes, and I didn't get the same feeling here. Now, again, an action thriller versus a horror thriller are completely different genres, but the feelings need to be executed. When it comes to 15 Minutes, that had a gross feeling around the messaging that was effective, with having some well-written characters, some cliche characters, but necessary for the messaging. Here we just get cliche characters with bland messaging that we have seen surrounding social media and films before, just done a lot better. The movie stars Barry Ferreira as Margot, who works for an internet content monitoring company, who is trying to do her part after a video of her and her friend dying from a train stunt goes viral. As Margot watches video after video each day to determine what's real, what's fake, what's appropriate, she comes across a slew of videos that make her question what's real and what's fake. After gaining evidence that there's a killer on the loose mimicking Faces of Death killings, she can't get anybody to believe her due to her history of making a video herself. Now, first and foremost, this is dumb. And the more the movie tries to explain this, it becomes dumber. Especially when the movie obviously has people going missing. But the one thing that I really did appreciate about this movie is Daniel Goldhaber's direction, which feels like a cheap horror movie from the 80s, And this goes true for the performances as well, where most of the cast feels like they are just recreating tropes from movies past. But when it comes to our main character, Margot, again, here played by Barbie Ferreira, this one seems to come across a little too over the top compared to the rest of the cast. That made me question if these performances are supposed to be over the top or they're just bad. But even with the question mark hovering over her head, we can't help but want to follow her in her performance. And I will give Barbie the benefit of the doubt that this was intended, but still doesn't match the tone of the rest of the cast. Our director gets the feel and tone right, and besides a question mark of one performance, Goldhopper seems to make it apparent on keeping true to the grittiness and cheesiness of horror films past. Now, the movie was also written by Goldhopper alongside Isa Matsi, who both wrote 2022's How to Blow Up a Pipeline, which had a much more intensity to it than what we see here. But at the same time, How to Blow Up a Pipeline had more characters and more material to work with versus a copycat killer. Now, with all my complaints stated, we talk about intent. We've talked about it a lot on this show. We can tell this is a movie that wants to give fans what they want. We can tell this wants to have its tropes. We can tell we are going to have the unbelievable moments, just like when the original came out. We were fooled in thinking even if you watch Faces of Death, you will die. So the movie does hold to the intended tradition of taking the topic, but holding the traditions to appease fans, all the way up to the climax that teeters between Evil Dead gore and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Faces of Death does the job it needs to do at a decent pace to appease horror fans and give nods to the movie and fan base of the 1978 film. Those not familiar with the 78 version might not get what the movie is throwing down, and those that are will either be satisfied or wish the movie went further. For me, it's all of the above. I'm giving Faces of Death 2 stars. And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I want to thank you for listening and thank you for your support. You can also show support by following me on Instagram, Blue Sky, X, Thread, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. And please don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you haven't yet checked out the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast and the Movie Wire's crossover show, Back to the Balcony, make sure you do. Again, the link of that show will be in the description of this episode. Until next week, do me a favor. Make sure you stay for after the credits to show the respect to those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film and support your local movie theaters.
A verdict has been made on this episode of The Movie Wire by your host, Justin Henson. He thanks you for listening to the show. You can follow Justin on Instagram and Twitter at Movie Wire Show or visit his website, www.themoviewire.com. Oh, and don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we will see you at the movies.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.